Gents, welcome back.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
How's the second time round been, Romania?
Yeah, really good. It does feel like coming back to it, which is really nice. Like you said, we've been before, and it was like welcome back. Like
friendly faces.
Yeah, friendly faces. People we've seen from last year, and more new additions. It's grown. It's bigger. So yeah, it's been a really lovely experience again.
Yeah, that's good.
How's the year been for you so far? Because obviously last year came in first time. We were just kind of having that like almost infancy, as it were. We've had a year, 12 months in between. How have things gone?
It's been an actual roller coaster for the pair of us. So Aaron's still teaching full time, apart from Fridays.
What a hero.
Yeah, part time. So it meant that we could do that sooner. So Monday to Thursday I still teach. That's really important to me. But I've now got Fridays to go and do conferences, go and do training, CPD days. But work on the business as a whole, because we are very much bootstrap startup. So we do our own marketing, our own funding, everything. So invoicing. So it's given us a bit of time to do that. But like I said, it's grown in the quality of what we're doing. And what we're able to offer schools at the moment. I think they've noticed that, the schools that we do work with.
And we've actually spent more time with teachers this year for the first time. So over the last 7 years, we've worked with about 10,000 young people. But this year, for the first year in particular, we've been working more with senior leadership teams, which we found we're trying to be a bit more strategic, because if we go into a school, it's great. And don't get me wrong, we love working with the kids, but typically they'll get us to work with every child they possibly can, because we've got you here for this moment. And that's lovely, but we can have a more profound effect if we work with the teachers and can instill that culture of innovation with those guys at all levels, from SLT to every single teacher in school. That's going to have a longer term impact than just that one hit wonder one day.
And so for the people out there that maybe haven't come across the work before, or don't know these lovely yellow logos you see there, give us like your USP, your elevator pitch in terms of what it is that you do.
Yeah, everything we do is about mindset and problem solving. So we do it through the lens of design technology, because it's what we love. But the future is going to be full of problems, full of unexpected situations. You don't know where you're going to be, who you're going to be with, what resources you've got. How do we get young people and adults ready for that situation? And that's what our aim is, to be able to do that.
Amazing. Obviously, we spoke a few times and love the work that we're doing. A massive thing about innovation, design technology, engineering as a science, and trying to bring that in. I love it. So I'm going to give you some scenarios. I'm going to do something different to sink your teeth into.
Yeah, nice. Let's go
okay. So the first one, let's go with universal design versus individual expression. You're going to think about that. So the question is this: does the push for universal design in education materials risk stifling individual expression, leading to what we're going to call homogenized creativity?
If it's pushed upon the student, so that's it. It has the teacher put that time in to think about how they're going to design the lesson, whether that's universal or independent. There's a lot going on about personalization and so on, and how that's more capable now with AI and the different softwares and services that are out there, and it's striking that balance. It's a lot of what we talk about is you allow them the space to feel comfortable to explore. If they've got the knowledge base and they're able to go off, then there is nothing wrong with that. Allow them to dig in and go down a rabbit hole, and if you have planned for that, then there is nothing wrong with a student doing that, working without instruction, following a thesis, following what they want to look into. So I think it's a case of both, but I would lean more towards having designed universally, but willing to go completely off script. And I think that as always said for us, is the importance of subject knowledge. Is teachers feeling safe to allow that, to let students go off piste and to follow their interests, rather than holding everyone at a line and a point and right, once you finish page 12, wait there, here's your extension. And it's then having it to be planned in similar that way, but allowing them to go further if needs be.
Yeah, and I know this is going to be an interesting one for you, because I think it's one of the things you guys are big into. Are we outsourcing critical thinking by using AI too much?
I'll let you do this as an engineer, and I'll do it as a teacher. I think we'll have different answers on this one.
Probably will. I mean, I'm using AI literally every single day, and it's allowing me to do what I do, multiple projects simultaneously. But that is also because I have a background of doing this day in, day out for 20 years. It's a tool like any other. So we want to be able to see it as a tool that is useful for the purpose in which it's used, just as a pencil is useful, as the paper is useful, as a 3D printer or a laser cutter or whatever it is you're using. So we want them to understand, why would you use AI in this scenario rather than not that or anything else. Yeah. It's always the why. Why are you using that? Why that tool than any other tool?
And I see it from a point of view of that it doesn't, because our students lack two main things: experience and empathy, because they haven't had the experience to develop that empathy and so on. And what AI does is it steps in as a intermediary where it can get them to start thinking in that context very differently. If we've all been there where you ask a student, well, think about this, and that's it. Well, I have the answer. I have come up with what I think of, and that is it. I am done. I have done what you've asked me, instead of going that step further and further. And it's completely explainable from the teenage brain, from neuroscience to their lack of experience and empathy. So AI steps in and starts to probe even further within their students. So I don't think it does. I think what it does is it does give them time to practice their critical thinking and develop it probably earlier than they maybe would have before.
Amazing. One of the things you guys said that you've done more of this year is you're working with teachers.
Yeah.
So I'm interested, let's say now, from a design educator's perspective. So we want to build programs that not only withstand rapid changes in AI technology, but also leverage these disruptions to enhance the learning experience. What are the steps, what's the advice that you're giving to teachers to help make sustainable and almost future-proof curriculums that utilize the important skills that we're discussing today?
I think we've given them tools that are agnostic of the environment. So it comes back to that mindset point we made earlier. Everything we try to do is through mindset. So there are staggered tools that we talk about, from ideas, sketches, and then models. It's a thing that can apply to anything. It's how do you talk about ideas? How do you communicate your ideas on paper? And then how can you make those ideas in a tangible reality to get it out of your head onto paper? So we're trying to give people tools that it doesn't matter the scenario, it's still a useful structure to whatever you're faced with.
Amazing. Yes, exactly that. Is structures. It's mindset of what we've done a lot more of, because we all want to talk about the sexy thing and the tool and ChatGPT and Notebook LM and how it's all going to help, and we want to know that. But just by learning that tool, you're already restricting yourself. So, and I know you've looked into it a lot with design thinking. That's the course. Strip it back to as broad and as wide as you can, and then the tools, the technology, and all the change won't actually really affect you that much. Again, with lesson planning, if you strip it back to Rose and Shine to that kind of level, then you could do 4 or 5 different things in there with your knowledge recall. The tech doesn't necessarily disrupt what you've planned. It just allows you to do more. And
one of the things that's obviously key within this adaptability and flexibility is failure. Yeah. So the last question I have, gents, because it's lunchtime, by the way, for everyone out there, and we know how important that is I want to know, what has been your best failure?
Oh, great question. Best failure.
Best failure. There have been a few. Breaking my back.
Oh.
Breaking my back. I fell off a shed in 2019 and broke my spine in 2 places. So I was forced to stop. I don't stop ever. I could work for 18 hours all night and then carry on the next day. I'm quite insatiable, as Ben would like us to be. Ben Whittaker. So what it forced me to do was to stop for the first time in a really long time and reevaluate what I was doing. I was making some terrible health and safety choices. But also what I was doing with my time. I got to not have to be at work day in, day out. And I just got to... I did have to use my brain a little bit because I needed something to do throughout the time. And I just made some STEM projects and started thinking about how I could approach those differently. And so, yeah, the worst thing of it could have been that I could have been paraplegic. It could have been terrible. I utilised the time differently and I reimagined what we could do with our kids club and how we could approach those kind of STEM projects of not putting everything in the box and having every single instruction to do every single bit of it, because that removes that critical thinking from the students. We want to give them a starting place to be able to do something, so there's some measure of success, but there's plenty of space left that they can use their brain and solve some problems.
And I'm going to leave this in terms of curiosity, and I'm going to come to you in a second, but I'm sure we're all thinking the same question, and I don't want you to answer it. I want people to message, okay, about what were you doing on the roof of a shed. So we'll hold that one. You can tell me over lunchtime.
Cool.
Message and find out. I think there we go. Let's be curious and see what different answers you can come up with. Give you some time to think about it. What about yourself?
Mine is not so profound. Mine was from when I was probably really young. I was probably maybe about 11 or 12, on the verge of sort of manhood and hormones. And I was digging up my granddad's. No, it's going to come. I think it's going to come into the story, and I think this is why. Because my granddad was digging up his garden, and we dug up a post, and it was just covered in concrete, like a huge lump of concrete. And he said, like, right, well, we need to smash that apart. And I was like, yeah. That's why I was like, yeah, I can do that. And I just went straight for the sledgehammer, and I was cracking it, and it was solid. It was not coming apart, and I was cracking it for probably a good hour. And just my granddad got up and walked off, and just left me to it, and left me there for about an hour. And then I think he must have got sick of watching me. And then he come back with the cold chisel, and then literally put it on and went, right, crack that. One hit, and it just fell apart. And he just literally looked at me and went, work hard, smarter, not harder. And I always remembered that. That sort of stuck with me, because there was this satisfaction of manual labour, working hard, and determination, resilience. There was all that from it, and I felt really proud of myself, but instantly felt stupid when he just took that one chisel and one crack did what I was trying to do in an hour. And that's probably something that's always stuck with me as a premise to apply to everything else.
Right tools for the right job.
Exactly. Absolutely, that as well. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, gents, it's always a pleasure doing wonderful things. It's always a pleasure to speak to you. And if I can, I'm going to pop into the workshop later.
Please do.
And see what good things you've got going on with glue guns and sharp things and all sorts of straws, cotton wool, flamethrowers.
Yeah.
Basically just the A-team. That would be a great question. You like the A-team, just creating things
That's
from
part of my
nothing.
origin story. That's part of my origin story.
There's another thing to message.
There's another 4 elements of my origin story, and one of them's the A-team.
Have you got an origin story?
He does have my origin story, to go alongside it. So I've got a very varied background, how I got to teaching and where I am now as well. So
it's a really good thing to have, strong.
I need an origin. Okay, lunchtime. I'm going to have to think about my origin story.
Yeah.
Gents, absolute pleasure. Thank you
Always.
so much.
No, thank you for having us.
Yeah.